Greetings, historians, and welcome back to House of Ideas Historian. As you can see, things are a little bit different this time. I am on the road. So, I love talking about comic books, but there are more people that know more about comic books than I do. So, where I'm at today is my #1 favorite comic book store I've ever been to. That is Comic Carnival. I've been coming here for years, so I kind of wanted to show it off to you. So I set up an exclusive interview with the owner, Tim Reynolds. We're about to go inside. I'm going to show you what it's all about, and then we're going to sit down with Tim and talk about comic books. This is so exciting. And here we are. I am with Tim Reynolds here at Comic Carnival.
That's me.
I've known you for, I don't even know how long at this point.
10, 15 years maybe?
I think about 15 years.
Since HeroClix.
I've been coming to Comic Carnival for as long as I can remember, way before I even started reading comics.
Yeah.
So, Tim, tell me about the store. Tell me a little bit about its history, how long we've been here, what have you done for the community, stuff like that. Take it
Okay,
away.
so Comic Carnival is the Midwest's oldest comic book store. We started in 1975. That makes us 45 years old today.
Oh my
This
goodness.
week, I should say.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a long time. We were founded by Mike Hilton. He has stepped away from the business. Dan and I now own it. And Dan Gaines and myself. And we have had it for about 5 years.
Okay.
We bought it when we moved to this location, like a year in or something.
I remember the move.
Yeah. It was quite a thing. There's a lot of back issues here. You can't see them, but there's a lot of heavy
I
stuff.
was kind of keeping an eye looking at this while we were setting up. There's more than I've got at home. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, when your friend asks you to help him move, and he's got like 5 or 6 long boxes of comics, and it breaks your back. Just imagine we've got over 500,000 of comics.
Oh my goodness, that's
Single issues
amazing.
here, so not including trade paperbacks
And all that, and memorabilia, a whole bunch of great stuff.
Yeah. So we try to support the local community as well. We work with the middle school community center that's right across the street.
Okay.
And what they do is they basically have a make-believe community where they each have a job and they buy and sell stuff.
Yeah.
And they have a comic carnival there that somebody pretends to run the comic
That's
carnival.
super cool. I remember going as a middle schooler, and pretty much all my friends, they love going to those things.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. I didn't actually know that.
Yeah.
So that's super cool.
Yeah. So and we try to be responsible members of our community. We're here open with customers in the store, but we're wearing masks, and we're very concerned, of course, about spreading of the disease. We've got plenty of hand washing solution, and we clean.
All right. Well, I mean, that kind of segues right into the next question. Due to #thanks COVID, we were forced. I mean, pretty much the whole city was forced to close down for a little bit. I know comic stores around the country went to doing like live sales and stuff like that. During our close down, what did you do here at the store to kind of keep things running and keep the comic community alive?
Well, we did live sales. Kelsey Simpson, our manager, ran some live sales for us. Probably shouldn't hit the table. And we also did more eBay stuff. We had a small presence on eBay, and of course we upped that. Our philosophy. We don't do a lot of online stuff, but our philosophy here is we want our local people to have access. We are back issues is our deal. I mean, of
No,
course, we get new stuff
absolutely.
we get new stuff every week, but we're always focusing on back issues and buying back issues, and we want our local guys to get a chance to buy it first before we put it up on eBay. We don't just throw all that stuff on eBay. So,
As a local guy, I really appreciate that.
our pleasure. Our pleasure. Other than that, we basically just spent the time sort of restocking our back issues. We've got a lot here in the back room, and so we moved a lot more out front, rearranged some stuff, cleaned the store, whatever. We just did what we could to
Kept
stay
busy
open.
and did what we needed to do. And I'm
Yeah.
so glad that we were able to come back because, I mean, again, I've been coming here so long, I don't even know what Indy would be without Comic Carnival at this point. As usual, this channel is very focused on comics, comic books, and comic
books?
history.
I know about
So, tell me a little bit about comic books for you. Favorite line, favorite author, favorite character, whatever you want to do.
Right.
What do you like about comics?
Well, my favorite line has got to be "It's clobbering time" because that's how I set my watch every day when it's clobbering time. So I love those Stanley moments. I like the sound effects. I like thwip and bamf and all that stuff. Snicked. Yeah, I love that.
Oh my
stuff.
goodness.
And it's all part of the sort of sousance of comics that sort of bubbles up into daily life. I love all that stuff. Zrak and
oh my gosh.
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
It's what
Biff
makes
Bam Pow,
comics.
right? So those are sort of the things I love. I mean, I love a character with a good moral center, fighting for right and overcoming incredible odds. It's the simplest story in the world, but I love it.
Oh absolutely.
There's plenty of other stuff out there I love too that's got complex morality to it and all that stuff, but man, give me a hero.
I talked
a villain.
very early on my love of 1960s Marvel, 1960s Avengers specifically, because that's where I've read the most. I mean, I love the convoluted. I mentioned how I love the Secret Wars, the 2015, the lead up with Jonathan Hickman going to the destruction of the multiverse. But I also kind of just love Avengers 2. We have a space alien that can swap places with people, and you don't know if you're fighting your ally or the enemy. Like, it was great. 1963. Right there.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff. The Fantastic Four met them first, those darn wily Skrulls, and they were a cool villain, right? Because you never knew. It's like, why is Reed Richards acting the way he's acting? It seems odd. Oh,
yeah, well, there
Skrull.
it is.
Yep.
And I've even mentioned on the channel many times that Secret Invasion is one of my absolute favorite Marvel events for that exact reason.
Yeah.
So do you have a favorite character?
I do. My favorite character is the Amazing Spider-Man.
Oh my goodness.
Peter Parker is, I think, a great representation of all the stuff that's great about comics. He's a sort of a down on his luck guy. He doesn't have a ton going for him, and he sort of gets imbued with his power, and it's a cliche because it's true. With great power comes great responsibility. He takes that power and he uses it for good. Once he's taught a terrible lesson by the death of his Uncle Ben, but he then from then on out, one for Uncle Ben. Right? He then on out he's working tirelessly and selflessly.
Oh my goodness.
For good. He's my dude. I love his funny one-liners while he's fighting. He's like like Deadpool's there too. I like Deadpool, but Spider-Man was first, and he's a little less mean.
He's Marvel's Marvel's most popular character for a reason.
Yeah,
I mean, there's
absolutely.
a reason why everyone knows Spider-Man. I've actually decided to read all of Amazing Spider-Man when I'm done reading all of the Avengers.
That's going to be a good read.
It's the first thing I've decided. I want to do Iron Man as well, but I know a lot about Iron Man already. There's a lot about ASM that I just don't know, so I'm excited for first
Very
hands.
cool, and he's got the best villains, I think.
Oh, by far.
Maybe Batman, but besides Batman, I don't know. I like him for his guys. Batman's guys are just like dudes in funny suits.
Yeah.
But his guys are like animal avatars and stuff like that.
Oh, they're great. I mean, even just Kraven the Hunter, who kind of is just a dude in a suit.
Yeah.
He's awesome,
Yeah,
though.
fantastic.
So,
Have you seen Into the Spider-Verse? I mean, Kingpin, he's amazing.
Oh my gosh, he's amazing.
He's just a dude, right? But amazing.
So, Spider-Man's your favorite. Of all the portrayals of Spider-Man that we've had on the big screen, who's your favorite?
Gosh, that's a really good question. So, I mean, I was so happy to have of Spider-Man on big screen, like Tobey Maguire.
Mm-hmm.
I loved that. I loved those first couple at least. That second one, especially with the Doc Ock thing. I mean, fantastic. I totally love that. Now, the current guy, what's his name?
Tom Holland.
Tom Holland. I have a couple of nieces who are in love with him.
Oh,
so, yeah. I think he's fantastic as well. He actually has a Brooklyn accent, which is cool. I mean, as he portrays the character, he's
British in real. It's crazy looking at the two, but you know,
yeah, for sure. I think he does a great job, and I love those Far From Home and those movies and Homecoming. But if I had to choose one, it's Peter Parker and Mary Jane in the first Spider-Man movies.
That's awesome because I mean they did such a good job, and it kind of reset the genre in a lot of ways. I mean, the comics, especially in the 90s, were such a low point with both the X-Men movie and then the Spider-Man movie right after.
Yeah.
It kind of reinvigorated comics a little bit. And then, obviously, with Iron Man and then the Avengers did the same thing as well. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, and look, these ones, Avengers, the Endgame, all those are just plain better movies, right? I mean, they're amazing, but there's 20 years in between. You've got to, you've got to understand that at the time those movies were just a breath of fresh air. It's like when the Superman movie came out in 1970. Maybe it's not fantastic nowadays, but when it came out, it was amazing.
Absolutely.
And that first Batman movie is amazing.
I really like the old school trilogy for the Spider-Man because how comic booky it is. A lot of times the MCU can get so caught up in trying to be modern and relevant and making us trick that it's comic books, but this one they were not afraid to this is straight up comic books.
Yeah,
and it was great. I mean, so I really liked it.
And that Spider-Man, I mean, who else's costume is so perfect compared to the comic book, right? My nose is peeking out.
So obviously, Spider-Man. Understand completely. Yes. But now, Spider-Man is coming on 60 years old. Or a little over 6 years old.
Yeah, 60.
So, in the past decade, we've had so many brand new characters introduced into the House of Ideas. So many amazing new things. Of the new to this past decade, 2010 to 2020, what do you have a particular character that you like most out of the new guard?
I do. I really like the Young Avengers. I
love the Young Avengers.
Yeah, those guys are fantastic. But if I were to pick a single character, I would have to say it's Ms. Marvel.
Oh my gosh.
Kamala Khan is a fantastic melding of the original Carol Danvers, love for Carol Danvers, which is why she takes that name, because of her respect for Captain Marvel now, but the original Miss Marvel. And I love her. They do a really good job here of modernizing the superhero. They're doing the sort of Peter Parker thing with, she's got a secret identity and she can't let her parents know because terrible things will happen to them and to her relationship with her parents. In addition, she has some excellent villains, and she has a great cast. Her family and her best friend. It's a great cast that portrays the different parts of being a superhero. It's got a really good home situation and interesting home stories. In addition, she fights.
Now, what I really like about Kamala Khan is really two things. One, you have the Muslim representation in comics that we just really haven't seen too much of before that point. So.
Yeah, if anybody had their own series before her, I don't think so. Certainly there are characters in the
But,
in the
this
universe,
is, title character. I mean, Miss Marvel. I mean, how more Marvel can you get?
Exactly.
But then, other than that, it's kind of the nerd representation. Because if you haven't read Miss Marvel, she's basically a comic book nerd that got superpowers.
Yeah.
I mean, that's everyone's
we
dream,
all want, right?
right?
Exactly, yeah.
It's great because you'll have her little inner dialogues like, stay away from this trope, or let's not do that. Or she knows situations because she's just she's read up. She's an Avengers junkie. So
she, are we in a team up right now? That kind of thing. You know,
it was great.
Fantastic. So quickly, I'll just add a couple other characters that I love. Squirrel Girl, the unbeatable Squirrel Girl.
Oh my gosh!
So she's actually from the '90s. She was introduced by Steve Ditko in the '90s, but until she got her own unbeatable Squirrel Girl title, she was kind of a secondary character. So she was sort of reinvented for this. This is a fantastic read. It's funny. It's really funny. It has lots of digressions. So if you remember in classic '60s Marvel comics, Drew can tell you that the comic staff, the editors, and Stan Lee would speak to you in asterisked bubbles. So it'll be like, wow, Spider-Man's like, Johnny Storm, I haven't seen you in a long time. And then it'll be,
if you want to see that battle, check out Fantastic Four number...
Exactly, yeah. Or little does Spider-Man know that he saw him in his secret identity and and they actually, that's one of the ways that those Marvel editors became almost characters in their own book.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And they do, that is the specialty of these books. At the bottom of every page, there will be some kind of funny little note about what's going on in the actual thing. She's a great character, too. One of my favorite things I love about her is that she's unbeatable, but it doesn't mean she's the strongest character, but she will find a way to win, and often that's by making friends out of the villain.
So my favorite Squirrel Girl moment came in New Avengers.
Okay.
Came in the all different New Avengers.
Yeah.
I talked about it in this video right here. In that video, she is, her and a little squirrel pal are going about, the Avengers are fighting, I think they call themselves the Ravagers, I don't know, but there was a rat-based villain that was throwing all these rats at the Avengers.
Okay.
So Squirrel Girl, instead of having squirrels and rats fight, she had the squirrel talk to the rats and basically make a union strike. You don't have healthcare, you don't have this, they don't have any, and the rats rebelled against this rat guy and they just walked off.
Fantastic.
It was amazing. So
thank you, Tippy Toe or Squirrel Joe or Monkey Joe. Whichever one it was.
Whichever one it was. It was great. I got a Squirrel Girl pop a couple of years ago, and I was always like, because I didn't really know much about her. Now that I've read more of her, it's like, oh my gosh, this is great, because it has the little squirrel next to it.
Yeah,
awesome.
Fantastic. Well, I'm glad you like that too, because she's one of my favorite characters. And then finally, we talked about Into the Spider-Verse earlier. Miles Morales. What a fantastic character. That you ask who's my favorite Spider-Man portrayal. I think Into the Spider-Verse is my favorite Spider-Man movie.
Oh my gosh.
I love all of them. I love all the Spider-Man movies.
Spider B. Parker is kind of my spirit animal, I feel like, so I agree completely.
Yeah. So they did an amazing job with that movie, and this character is fantastic. Again, it's a sort of a reboot of Peter Parker in that he is a kid that's trying to do right. In a world that doing right is not always so easy. So. And
Miles Morales right now is kind of blowing up. If you haven't really paid attention, the new PS5 was announced.
Yeah,
not released. Announced.
It's expansion, right? They originally said it was going to be a whole game, but I think it's an expansion.
Well,
right?
The next one's based on not Peter Parker. It's based on Miles Morales.
Yeah.
And so Ultimate Fallout number 4, his first appearance, has spiked in price. It went from like a $300 book to a $1,500 book, like that.
Isn't that crazy? And it's less than 10 years old.
I know.
He does fit in the decade, even though Squirrel Girl doesn't.
It's great. He's a great character. I actually really want that book. One, because Miles Morales is awesome, but it's also the first appearance of the Maker. One of my favorite new villains right now.
Yeah.
But
Ultimate Reed Richards.
Don't think I'm going to be able to shell out $1,500 for that book.
Yeah, it's tough, right? I mean, when you love Spider-Man, you have to learn to live with pain because all of his important appearances are expensive.
So expensive.
And it goes back to 1962.
Yep. So expensive.
You can get into some serious money. Million. Yeah.
All
so those are, I cheated. Those are my 3 favorites.
Hey. Awesome. I mean, those were some that I was thinking. I also really like Riri Williams. Brian Michael Bendis is one of my favorite authors.
Sadly, not at Marvel anymore.
Maybe eventually. We'll see. We'll see if he comes back.
Yeah.
But I love Iron Man is my favorite is my favorite character.
Yeah.
So seeing kind of the passing of the torch is again something I love. And when he went into the coma, who better to pick up the Ironheart role as Riri Williams?
Yeah.
I also really like Nadia Pym. Her last name is Pym.
Yeah.
The kind of estranged daughter of Hank Pym, but she's a great character.
Yeah.
Just excellent. When in the 2017 Avengers, when infamous Iron Man, Dr. Doom Iron Man, came to the Avengers, everyone's like, no, he's Dr. Doom. And she was like, oh, yeah, you're awesome. You're like my hero.
For sure. And then that's another thing Squirrel Girl does. She becomes friends with Dr. Doom.
As a Doom junkie right here, anytime that they praise Doom, I love it.
The character, not the act.
Well, yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, maybe when he turned the other leaf and became good in Infamous Iron Man, you know.
Isn't that always the way? Like, he was on the up and up, but nobody believed him.
No one believed him.
He got treated so poorly.
I believed him. So this channel, I love talking about comics, and I love talking about old characters, but I also love talking about Marvel history. Now, that can be lore, that can be historical reference, anything that happened because of a book came out or whatnot. In the idea with Marvel history, is there a favorite moment of yours that is, significant to you when it comes to historical Marvel?
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of historical Marvel moments, and I am particularly excited about the creation of the Marvel Universe. So this was done for us by David Reddick. He's a local artist.
Oh my goodness!
And the creation of the Marvel Universe, right? I mean, it's Stan Lee, and he is fantastic. Those early comics. They're not modern comics. They sort of they have their own rhythm. You have to
they do.
But man, everything that you know about Marvel basically came from there. It came from those early,
early 60s, but even earlier, because I've read a couple of those earlier ones.
Yeah, for sure.
Submariner and
now you didn't
Human
create
Torch.
Submariner, but the Marvel Universe, the original Human Torch, for sure. So I love his reinvigoration of the previous Marvel Universe, where we were talking about the Human Torch and Submariner and Captain America. He's the guy that brought Captain America back as a member of the Avengers. Probably my favorite member of the Avengers. I love Captain America, and he didn't create Captain America, but he made him. He sort of transformed him into the leader of the Avengers that we all love.
Now, do you know Stan Lee's history with Captain America before Avengers number 4?
No, tell me.
So, Stanley Lieber didn't want to be a comic book writer. It was never in his plan, but he had got a job when he was 19 years old, pushing papers and whatnot. He wanted to be a full-fledged author. And it's either...
And he was like a cousin or something to one of the Marvel editors.
It was either Captain America number 2 or number 3. It was very early on.
From the 40s.
In the 40s, yes. There is a editorial piece in that book that was written by Stanley Lieber.
Oh.
But that's when he signed for Stan Lee, because he didn't want his author name of Stanley Lieber to be ruined by comic books.
Right.
But that is the first time he's ever put ink into a comic book. It's all the way back in Captain America. Again, I don't remember if it was 2 or 3 off the top of my head, but it's super early on.
Yeah, that's cool. So speaking of that reminds me of that first Iron Man movie. Darn it, what's his name? What's Happy Hogan's?
John
Favreau. John Favreau. Thanks,
yep.
the guy that does the Mandalorian now.
Yep.
But he had a vision. And Avi Advard, I think's his name. He's the executive producer of all those Marvel movies. They really shepherded 2 Ds those early Spider-Man, X-Men movies into the Marvel, into this new Marvel universe, the Avengers universe with Iron Man and Chris Hemsworth with Thor and Robert. I mean, just casting Robert Downey Jr. That has to be like one of the turning points of the Marvel universe, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we're talking about obviously creation, old school Marvel 60s, which I love, but the modern era, so many people, myself included, started reading Avengers or reading comics in general because of what they did with Iron Man, Captain America, Thor on the big screen.
Absolutely.
And in 2012 with Avengers. So yeah, Robert Downey Jr. I mean, Chris Hemsworth did a great job. Chris Evans
Absolutely.
did a great job. You know, all the Chris's did a great job.
Yeah.
But Robert Downey Jr. is that character so much. Like, I'll even go back and read 60s era stuff and then see Robert Downey Jr. I mean,
in those crude drawings by Don Heck or whatever, it's like, oh, that looks like Robert Downey Jr. now.
and it works. It does.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, so those would be my two big, like, earth-shaking Marvel Universe things.
Absolutely. And so, you know, we've talked about a lot, obviously. There's one last aspect of Marvel that I think sometimes goes unnoticed. You've got the world and the characters that we all know and love, but there are men and women behind those characters, the creators. Do you have a favorite creator? That could be an author, artist, that could be inker, you know.
I bet I do. Yeah.
Who do you like? Who's your favorite creator?
So I'm probably going to cheat here as well. So there's a few guys I really like. So probably number one, Chris Claremont and John Byrne.
Oh my gosh.
This X-Men run. This is when I was just, pre-high school. This stuff was, Shakespeare to me.
Revolutionary and legendary run.
Absolutely. Just the intricacies of the art. There's fun. There's character development. What happens in one issue affects the next issue. This is some of my favorite stuff, and John Bird's art is my touchstone. I really love that.
My gosh, absolutely.
And here's Kitty Pryde fighting for her life against a giant alien. They took tropes from popular movies, which I think is perfectly fine, because popular movies are taking tropes from comics, and they have been for a long time. Jonathan Hickman.
Yes.
This current X-Men run that's going on right now, you're missing it. It's fantastic.
Changes the X-Men game.
Absolutely.
Again.
Yes, but nobody rewrites history like Jonathan Hickman. All the stuff that's happened before is still relevant. The X-Men still fought Magneto at that airbase in issue 1, and all that stuff has happened. But he's sort of changed the firmament underneath it in a really major way. And these are really great jumping on points for the new, mutants were long ago. I'm not going to be able to talk this in a way that Jonathan Hickman talks about it, but mutants have always been sort of a stand-in for an oppressed minority.
Yes, always.
But now they're an empowered minority, and I think that's important now in these times. And I think this is a really good story for these times. Finally, I'll say Dan Slott. His Amazing Spider-Man run is fantastic. I envy you reading it. It is, some of the best Spider-Man stuff. I do love that early Stan Lee stuff as well, and the stuff that comes between it, because I love all that stuff. But the Dan Slott run, I think, is the second definitive Spider-Man run on my favorite characters. So, as far as artists, I appreciate Steve Ditko's Spider-Man. He's the guy that created Spider-Man. I love those weird spindly stuff, but
weird little web.
Yeah,
absolutely,
that's super cool. And like his character design is really cool. J. Jonah Jameson is his.
Oh yeah,
and what a iconic character. Where you can see J.K. Simmons.
Oh yeah, and hear him.
Yeah.
You don't even necessarily have to see him,
absolutely.
but you hear him.
But when it went to John Romita as the Spider-Man artist, that's a really fantastic point for me. That's my childhood Spider-Man artist, was John Romita, and I love it.
All right, so I'm going to throw you on the spot because I didn't write this one down. I didn't even think about it. I'm sure you have a personal collection. What is your absolute favorite key one big issue that you have from your personal collection?
Spider-Man #1. That's my biggest one.
Oh my goodness.
That's my favorite.
Well, yeah. I mean, shoot, when you have the beginning, what is
Yeah. Amazing Fantasy 15 is the beginning.
You're right, 100% right, but
I don't have that. I have a reprint of it.
Talk about another expensive book that I would love to have.
But I was very in college I was able to get Spider-Man #1 at there's $800 or something, which was it was a ridiculous price at that time. I didn't have $800, but I was able to come to Comic Carnival and pay, every week out of my pathetic little Pizza Hut salary.
Yep.
And now I have it.
Oh, well, I envy you. That's amazing, especially with me now going to be starting my ASM run, and every big ASM key is going to be so expensive. It's going to be a while before I find, an ASM key that I really like, and of course, ASM number 1, Basic Fantasy number 15.
Ugh. Yeah.
Can you get any better than that?
Yeah, I don't know, but they're my favorite comics. But fortunately, we live in a time when there are collections available of all that stuff. He's not going to have to buy $500 million worth of Spider-Man comics to read the Spider-Man. So
I've talked about how I love the Epic collections, and I also always subscribe to Marvel Unlimited, because I'll be at work, on my phone reading comic books, so it's really useful. I still want to buy them. I still want everything, at least in physical, whether it's Epic, trade, or single issue.
Yeah.
But Marvel Unlimited is really useful for the on-the-go consumer. So,
for sure.
All right, well, that's the end of my questions. Do you have any questions for me before we wrap up?
Yeah, so what's coming up for your channel? What are you going to do?
So, I'm always
more of this stuff?
Yeah.
Have you had any interviews before?
This is my first interview.
I didn't think you had. That's why I was able to do the Stan Lee thing, because I was first.
I have a bunch of interviews that I would like to eventually do. Sure. There's other shops around here that I might be interested in talking to.
That's weird.
Not that I exactly frequent, but talk to.
Oh, we love our competitors.
Always.
Downtown Comics and Comic Book University.
Comic Book University is a very beautiful store.
Yeah.
It's blew me away the first time I went in there because it was so nice.
Yeah.
There is, I'm sure you know about, but the Comic Book Museum up in Elkhart.
Yeah.
I have not contacted them yet, but I would love to get up there to kind of review it and sit down with them and talk to them, because I've talked to them in the past in person. This time to kind of put it out for everyone else.
Record it.
And then I have recurring featured creators. I do talk about different characters' histories a little bit. I talked about an overview of Ultron, an overview of the Maker, similar stuff like that. Cool. But always, if there's something you want to listen to or hear about or talk about, hit me up, because I just like talking about comic books. So, any ideas I think about.
Fantastic. Well, Drew, thanks so much for joining me.
All right, absolutely. Thank you guys so much. Thanks for being here for all these years, because this is where I come first for all my comics always. Yeah. So
thanks, Drew.
Absolutely,
we appreciate it.
Always, it's been that way. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Right. See you guys around the comic shop. Bye bye.
Oh my gosh, that was so much fun. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Go to Comic Carnival if you're in the Indianapolis area, or even if you're in the Midwest. This is such a great shop. 1975. That's amazing. Thank you, Tim, for letting me sit down and talk to you about comic books. I love nerding out. For now, I'm about to head back on the road to get home. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hey, before you head out, do me a favor, like this video, subscribe for all future content, share with your friends both about my channel and Comic Carnival. Excelsior, true believers. Till next time.